Rachel Frick is the Business Development Director for Digital Public Library of America, and she's the lead of DPLA's eBook Working Group. Before this, she was Director of the Digital Library Federation Program at the Council of Library and Information Resources. She's held senior positions at the Institute of Museum and Library Services and the University of Richmond, and has done a lot of other things in other parts of her career. So at any rate, Rachel is going to take it from here and talk about where DPLA figures in this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I love listening to October and what they're doing in the research sector, because at DPLA we're kind of have our foot to the gas around ebooks, and a lot of folks don't understand what DPLA is doing in this space, so it's nice to have a little bit of time to talk to a mostly publisher audience about what we're doing at DPLA. How many people are familiar with the Digital Public Library of America? Okay, great. But just for you that may not know, we're an independent nonprofit that successfully launched in April 2012. We launched what we call our Cultural Heritage Metadata Aggregation Service in 2012. We have currently what we call data providers or service hubs in over 21 states in the United States, with the goal to have a national network of sites available throughout the U.S. by the beginning of 2018. We currently have over 13 million records representing over 1,900 cultural institutions across the United States. But I think a lot of people focus on this cultural heritage portal as what is DPLA, when in fact at DPLA we always think of ourselves as a platform of how we cut together around collaboration and community, and that we actually are a distributed network to leverage our collective talent, infrastructure, and collections to address challenges that we really couldn't solve on our own. With that perspective in mind, we've been working on a couple other initiatives, including ebooks, one of them being Getting It Right About Rights, which is a Knight-funded initiative funding rights work with our colleagues over in Europe at Europeana to generate a standardized vocabulary as a way to express access and reuse rights around content that cultural heritage organizations might physically own, but they might not or do not own the intellectual property rights behind those digital objects. If you're interested in all this great stuff around rights and rights expressions and URIs, please check it out at rightstatements.org. Another large-scale initiative we're involved with is something with the Hydra Technology Group. Do people know about Hydra? A few folks? We got some funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services to work with Stanford and DuraSpace to extend the Hydra content management system, I guess that's what we could call it, to be a turnkey system and a hosted service, and do some development around that. And product from that work is available. You can see little YouTube videos of some of our sprints, but we should have actual product pilots rolling out this fall. So along that vein, we've also been exploring ebooks, because back when DPLA was conceived, when we were more of a thought and planning process at the Berkman Center, one of the things we talked about, we had public library in our name, and that we really felt we really need to address the challenges of ebooks that we were seeing in our public libraries. But at that time, when you think about 2010, 2011, 2012, it was pretty tumultuous. I mean, there wasn't really a clear path forward. So we thought we would work in the space around cultural heritage data and see how things developed, how things worked out, and to try and always be listening and find where that really great opportunity would be for DPLA. So last year, we had gotten additional funding from the Salon Foundation to start this kind of national conversation. What do we know? What can we learn? Where are those, like the keynote speaker said yesterday, where are those pain points in need of a painkiller? So what we did find out is that libraries really have an opportunity to extend their curation skills beyond the immediate geographic communities that they serve. That there really is some amazing strategic points of collaboration between what we're seeing in the ebooks landscape with our academic library partners, our public library partners, and other special library communities that we really should take advantage of and not be recreating solutions in parallel, but actually come together and learn from each other. And that we feel at this moment in time, there really is a golden moment to coming from an ex-serials librarian background, to restore some health to our ecology around publishing, especially scholarly publishing, open access publishing, that when we look at ecological science, when one part of the ecosystem is dominant, it's not a healthy ecosystem, how can we restore some balance? And I feel like now is a really great time to restore some balance because we do have shared common goals. So when I say there's opportunity for painkillers, this is a schematic that my colleague at New York Public Library pulled together. Really, it's focused around public libraries, but you can see there's opportunities for some pain relief. Definitely around how many different library aggregators public libraries use to access ebooks. I mean, it can be up to 4 to 5, which also require sometimes 4 to 5, depending on what vendor you use for ebooks. I'm sure you know. It requires a separate mobile e-reader interface. I know I have never borrowed an ebook from my public library because it would require me deciding what e-reader I had to use and all that kind of stuff. University press content is really not easily accessible to our public libraries. We just don't know. There might be a couple things, but sometimes we only get them through aggregated products and not directly from university presses. Self-published stuff is another big mess. It's kind of like when you only have a certain amount of bandwidth to deal with ebooks, you're just going to go to the easiest thing, right? When in fact, there's some amazing other content out there, but it's just not an easy path forward. One of the things that we thought was an opportunity space was around public domain. It was amazing how many public libraries license public domain books from publishers and how much of that budget money every year goes to that. Their public domain works. So with all these opportunities for, I guess, collective problem solving, we've started working with a number of different initiatives, and I'll go through these really quickly. One of them is Readers First. They've been around several years, and it's an organization of nearly 300 libraries around the world representing what we like to say 200 million readers, and dedicated to ensuring access to free and easy-to-use ebook content. What has been amazing about Readers First? Yes, they're really involved in the public library space, but they're starting to actively recruit academic libraries. They've connected with the Charlotte Initiative, and we're sharing information back and forth. But they're advocating standards, and one of the big successes from Readers First was working with the big 5 publishers and saying, you really need to standardize how we get that ebook data from you. Can we have it as a standardized data feed, OPDS? This is the way to go. This is what we need to do. And they have what we call 4 principles. And they want to say, you know, we want a single comprehensive catalog to all of our stuff in our public libraries. We want a seamless platform for e-content. We don't want to have to jump from mobile e-reader device platform to get to our collection. And we want to be able to download ebooks that are compatible to any type of reader. So there are a really big advocacy group within this space. I encourage you to go to their website or ping Michael Blackwell for more information. So as a result of that, the New York Public Library, and Michael May is leading this, they've been able to, with this, advocating for a standardized data feed of this content, working with the EPUB 3 standard. Library Simplified was built using funds from the Institute Museum and Library Services. It's called Library Simplified. We're brand changing the name to Simply E. But it's a mobile e-reader that app that can use, doesn't matter where the content's coming from, whether it's from Overdrive or 3M or a different type of data source, as long as it's coming through an OPDS feed, you have a very clear interface to work with. It unifies those ebooks from the library, and we're also using this program to really move forward standards around accessibility in ebooks. So NYPL is launching this for their ebook service in the next few weeks. But what was, and as you can see, we see Simply E being able to alleviate at least one pain point in this sphere. So with NYPL doing work around Simply E, DPLA was doing this national strategy. 2 years ago, I guess it was fall 2015, 14, we were approached by the Institute Museum and Library Services and representation from the White House Connect Ed initiative to work together, New York Public Library and the Digital Public Library of America, to pull together an e-book collection that could service for kids in need, and that's low-income kids, kids with special needs, kids of military families serving overseas and here domestically, and to serve it as open, we call it open content. I know it's technically not open because it's only a certain audience that this is focused on. But to be that content provider for the Connect Ed initiative. How many people know about Connect Ed? Okay, it was a White House initiative launched about a couple years ago, really focusing on providing broadband and technology to our nation's educators and libraries. So there's a lot more about it. They have things called Connect Home, et cetera, and so forth. So Connect Ed had been really focused on the technology and the broadband, and we were the people that were bringing the content to the Connect Ed. So over the course of the last 18 months, we've been working with over 10 different publishers to give us, contribute, not a tax write-off, not a tax donation, but access to a wide variety of their titles for kids, both fiction and nonfiction, K through 12, multiple user perpetual access for 3 years, as long as we had it gated to a particular audience. And we're able to do that by using, we do authentication through something called the First Book Network. There's an organization called First Book that works with low-income, special need kids and programs to provide the authentication. But what is really awesome about Open eBooks, and we launched this in February this year, it's using the Simply E. It's the first commercial deployment or production deployment of Simply E, so we were able to test this app. We were able to have some really interesting conversations with the big 5 publishers and others, as you can see, if you can't read from the back of the room, Hachette, Macmillan, HarperCollins, Simon Schuster, Penguin Random House, and others, to talk through what, the whole logic puzzle of providing ebook access to kids and working through the issues around text-to-speech and so we can serve kids with special needs with accessibility issues. And through those conversations, we also identified other interesting challenges and opportunity spaces, like around accessibility, that we could possibly leverage this national initiative to move the ball forward in a more transformative way. Instead of taking 2 steps forward, maybe we can make 10 giant steps forward. So if you want to learn more about Open eBooks, go to openebooks.net, and we can have more questions about that later. So one of the other, challenge spaces by working with Open eBooks is that we work with Baker & Taylor to be our distribution platform. So the publishers negotiate with all of us, but primarily through Baker & Taylor around what are the conditions of the contribution. So the relationship really isn't between the Open eBook partners, it's really between the publishers and Baker & Taylor, which we're like, we're all together and we're all working together, but we would really like to have more ownership of that relationship with our publishers. I think it would be a little smoother. It has, Baker & Taylor has done an amazing job with us, but we saw that there was an opportunity here for a library-owned ebook exchange. It would have been a lot smoother, but we just don't have the capacity right there. When we start running the numbers, the idea of building yet another distribution platform for ebook exchange is just really, really expensive, but not impossible. So we're working through a pilot service. We hope to have something up and running by the end of this year. But NYPL is leading this charge, and we'll see how it goes. So once again, another opportunity to clear a pain point. The other pain point, once again, that I mentioned was around public domain and open access works. This is where DPLA really feels we have a great place to lead there. I had mentioned that a lot of our public libraries were trying to investigate what are those titles that are in the public domain or cleared orphan works or openly licensed works that our public libraries consistently have in their collections, and how can we take that cost of everybody buying these public domain works time and time again. So we're working to build this open content collection. And a lot of these books have been digitized, but they're in PDF format. So we want to be able to optimize those for mobile use. And we're starting that actually with a project funded by the NEH around humanities books. You can find more information about that from Mellon. We're doing that with our Curation Core. We have a team of librarians that are helping us select these books and create these public domain items. And because I'm out of time, you can find out more information by following us on Facebook and Twitter, at least the Open eBooks Initiative. And you can catch up with what DPLA is doing with ebooks at our Google group and our working group page. So in closing, you know, we're all in this together. We have some common goals. We want to serve the researcher and the reader. We want to increase the universe of readers. And we want to support curious inquiry and knowledge creation. So thanks.